G'day guys and welcome to the GameDay Squad Aussie Rules Fantasy Show. I'm Pitty and alongside Haz, we are the Fantasy Bros. We've partnered with GameDay Squad to bring you everything you need to know to succeed in this season's GDS Aussie Rules season. Now, to address the elephant in the room, yes, those keen-eyed viewers would have realised by now that is in fact not Haz, that is Tom from GameDay Squad. And mate, before I say hello to you and introduce you, just to explain to our viewers, we've had a slight change in plan with our live shows, unfortunately. He's been called up with his footy team. They've had to change their training nights around, so they're now training on Wednesday. So he's going to do his best to get on here when he can, and we'll have a bit of a rotation of guests coming through. But never fear, he's been well involved in the research this week for this show. So, Tom, mate, how are you going? And thanks so much for joining us on this round one live preview round.
Yeah, mate, doing bloody fantastic. It's good to see that you boys have, really run away with this in terms of not only the show, but your performance as well. So I'm glad that people can finally give some good advice to our community about this to start. But, mate, I've been good. Footy's back. It's that time of the year. Honestly, buzzing about just having it back in general, fantasy, all of that stuff, mate. So, yeah, hope you've been well and keen to chat all things GameDay Squad, as you said.
Yeah, I have, mate. I have, and I'm very excited as well. But I heard that you are the beat the coach this week for NRL. Is that true?
Yeah, in our rugby league game, I am the beat the coach. So I'll have to be making sure I put enough time into there so I can give people a good run. But definitely Aussie rules is more my natural domain, let's say. So.
Yeah, you and me both, mate. I've tried to talk rugby league before and it hasn't gone too well, so I'm going to stick in this space myself. Now, before we kick off, mate, I just want to preview before round one action. Just make sure to all of our new viewers as well that you've subscribed to all of our Fantasy Bros socials so that you guys don't miss a thing this season. We're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, TikTok, Facebook, and Insta. Just make sure that you search at Fantasy Bros AU. And if you're a new coach, it's not too late for you to get started in GameDay Squad. Just simply download the app or visit the GameDay Squad website, create an account, and use that promo code you can see on screen there, FBAR26. And when you do that, you'll be rewarded with 3 9-player common packs just for doing so. Plus, you'll receive a multitude of free bronze starter packs to get you started in your journey with GameDay Squad. So why wait? There's incredible prizes up for grabs each week in this Aussie Rules season. Now, our chat as well. We'll see who we've got in here. We absolutely love and getting all the comments there from everyone in the chat. So we've got Nate Daddies again. He's in the chat saying howdy. How are you, mate? Good to see you back in. And TCB as well, ready to rip into another big round of footy action. Good to see you there, fellas. Now, continuing on, let's have a look. We mentioned last week that hasn't on, so we want to start off by going around the grounds and having a look at maybe how we went, do a bit of reflection, maybe get a few things out of the system that might be still pent up from some poor performances. And before we talk about that as well, you can see on screen there that winning squad in the Classic League. That's Arrogant Frogs there with his side scoring a measly 3,069 points, if you don't mind. And you can see those cards, some of those cards he's played on screen there too. That is an elite squad, isn't it, mate?
Yeah, absolutely. Very well built. Didn't really get punished by, too many of the players that were out or, just didn't play as good. But overall, mate, he's built that squad very well done. And to crack 3,000 in Classic is always a feat. There are some rounds where we sit more like 2,700. So he is absolutely killed it. And just for round 0 as well. So mind you, in GameDay Squad, we just used the round 0 team. So that's purely just off all the teams that played then. This week, it opens up a whole nother level with all 18 teams playing.
It'd be very interesting to see how that changes this week. And how did you go, mate? Of course, across the different competitions you're playing in. And Haz and I have been talking to a range of guests about their plans in different competitions with the addition of these special competitions. So what's your plan this year and how did you go in opening round?
Yeah, mate. Well, look, how did I go? Not amazing. I really got hurt by Hugh McCluggage being out. I loaded up on salary cap in a couple of my squads, and then seeing that first quarter was not ideal, but I'm confident we can bounce back. It'll be okay. But my sort of spread this year is Classic will be my main competition. I'm dabbling into Challenger for the first time and also Contender. I'll put a squad in there as well. But they'll be the 3 that I use. I finished in Classic last round, 56th position with 2,800 and 65 fantasy points. So I played a little bit too many mind games with myself. I actually benched my all-star Golden just before the
No.
game, and that stung big time. But yeah,
Oh,
keen to tell round one, mate. How about yourself? I saw you on the
yeah.
leaderboard, so you've definitely done good, but how well did you go around the
Yes.
ground?
Yes, we had a good week there, Haz and I. We in terms of our best finish there for the week. So Haz obviously took out that challenger competition, which he was stoked about. But I feel like I was forgotten there. Saturday night, I was leading that competition, and I had Whitfield, I had Ash, I had Green, I had McDonald, like all still to come and count. The only two I just missed were the two boys you probably couldn't have faded that week was Josh Dacos and Nick Dacos. So they absolutely torched me. I dropped from 1st to 27th in Challenger. And I didn't fade them intentionally. I just didn't have a card to play in Challenger for them. So that was positive signs, I guess, for the squad entering Challenger, a bit like yourself for the first time. But yeah, unreal effort by Haz. He was absolutely stoked with that. We finished, 5th and 6th in Classic, respectively. So I pipped him there, which I have been reminding him about all week so far. And then, best finish for me was that 3rd in that under 22s comp. So good week all round, really good start. But I think this round one, like where you get all the teams open up and you can select from all teams, I like to think of it as like that movers and shakers round. That's where we can really see the leaderboards change up. And sometimes we realise we're not going as well as what we thought we were. And those coaches who think they're going poorly, they realise, actually, I'm back in the hunt now after a good week. So we've got to move on pretty quick, I think, with this round one there.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So looking ahead, before we do move on, there are a few things we've got to talk about. So this is something we want to talk about at the start of each episode. So we want to talk about who starred for our squads. This is stars and scars. Who were our stars and who just absolutely scarred us and who scarred our squads in opening round. So if you're in the chat there, let us know who was your star for the round and who scarred you in this past round. And I'll kick us off, mate, if you want to have a think about yours there. In terms of our stars, we might start there. We'll start with the positive notes. Obviously, Josh Dacos there. He was absolutely incredible just from Haz there. He really, I think, was a big difference for a lot of coaches and has played his platinum in Challenger. So he went a long way to getting any coach there a really good week. And probably what hurt me, I didn't have salary on him in some comp. So, you look at that, Arrogant Frogs who took out Classic competition, for example, had salary on Josh Dacos there. So he was a star. And Connor McDonald, for me, is probably an interesting one. I was hot on him all preseason. I played him across all my squads. And he scored okay. Like, it was 93. It's nothing to rave home about. But it was just what that meant for me. It meant that I chose to play him over Dylan Moore. And so I sort of dodged that bullet as a result of playing Connor McDonald. So he was my star, just sort of did what he had to do, which allowed the other boys to sort of take me through. Who's your star?
Yeah, a lot of stars. Hit on a couple, but I'm actually going to give it to a Geelong forward in Brian Myers. 138 fantasy points is absurd. I couldn't believe how well that he played. And, of course, coming into the game, I think there was a little bit of, I didn't know if he's fully healthy, how fit he was going to be, ready to go. I think there was some question marks about his status for it, but came in and just dominated. So he's definitely the star of my round. And McCluggage, it's not his fault, so I definitely won't go at him for the scar. But I reckon there's a couple of names that I could have brought up for this, in all honesty. But two come to mind, Sam Darcy, and also Callum Mills. Probably just, especially Mills, with how good some of the other defenders were in the round. Like a couple of the other guys in there that I could have chucked in. That really hurt, just knowing that not only have I not hit on that pick, but I've actually missed out on a good, 50 fantasy points as well. So, that's definitely the scar because it stings the most.
It does. And I was with you. I was really keen on Callum Mills. I did want to play him across all squads, so I played him in, I think it was Contender and Challenger, just because, again, in Challenger, that was probably the card I had at my disposal. But I did think he'd go well. I thought he would have been better than what he put up. So, it's given me a few questions to think about heading into this next round. And obviously, Sean Manor, thought he would have done more. He had a red-hot start and then just faded out really quickly, as did the rest of the Geelong Cats.
Yeah,
we've got Daniel Schloss there.
Looks good. And then, no good for the rest of the game. So it was interesting to see.
Yeah, I know. It's not like him too. So let's hope he bounces back. Well, we've got Daniel Schloss there in the chat. G'day, mate. And Ed Richards, how good was he? He's an absolute star, and he's clearly their number one mid in terms of CBAs and where they rate him. You'd still say Bont's their best player, but yeah, Ed Richards, he was an absolutely incredible pick if you had him in your squads. And good to see a few more in the chat as well. Bella is there. G'day, mate. How are you? So his star was Jacos and Scar was Fletcher as well. Yeah, that definitely hurts.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, mate, let's put that behind us. I'm sick of talking about who let us down. Let's move on to this week, because that's the best part about game days. We did last week. We are going to show you our top picks. We're going to show you our top picks across each line and who we're really hot on. And there's a few picks I think that might have coaches a bit interested. Actually, a few big calls that Haz and I are keen to make this round. But as you can see there, we've got our fixtures in prime competition. If you're keen to jump into that special comp there, we have 4 teams you can select from for prime time. Thursday night, we have the Blues up against the Tigers at the MCG, and we've obviously got the Bombers against the Hawks on the Friday night. So if you're playing prime time, you are picking between those 4 teams. If we jump across to that Sunday showdown, you can see we have 6 teams to choose from there, 3 games across the Sunday. We have the Kangaroos against the Power, which is under the lid there at Marvel Stadium. We have the Demons against the Saints. That's also back at the MCG. And then you have the Suns against the Eagles, which should be a juicy matchup to have a look at. And you can see our Saturday games there as well to round out that round. We have the Bulldogs against the Giants, Cats against the Dockers, Swans against the Lions, and the Crows against the Magpies. Are you chucking your team in prime time there, Tom?
I don't think so. I think I'm more interested in the FantasyBros Sunday showdown, if I'm all honest with you. Like, just trying to nail the start of the round and then looking at that to try to get that qualification into that knockout finals at the end. So my collection isn't probably good enough to roll with in the prime time at the moment, but I'll put a squad out. But in terms of like focus, I'm definitely not focusing there. I'm trying to allocate my stronger cards elsewhere to compete a little harder.
I'm with you. I'm with you for sure. That's the last one I look at, I reckon, at the week. I just chuck whatever I have left in, and didn't realise I played 3 people who didn't play last week, so I was caught out there, just too busy worrying about my other squads. But that's all right. The others had a good week. So let's jump in. And in fact, before we start looking at our defenders, I can see a comment there in our chat around Nazaya Wanganeen Millera. So Daniel Schloss there, he reckons that Naz is going to be bouncing back this week and he'll be ready to have a big game. Are you looking at picking Naz again this week, Tom? Are you going to stick fat there and keep picking him?
Yeah, one thing I've thought about big time over the past week is the mix between not trying to overreact to one round of play, but then also looking into the numbers and looking into the roles that some players played when I'm trying to pick my squad. Because, you know, if you look at Naz's last year, especially how he ended, there's just no way you can fade someone like Naz. Even Bailey Smith having less CBAs, which is a little concerning. It's something that probably indicates a little more that there could be a drop-off in fantasy score because of how different that role looks. But Naz in particular, I just remember against, I think, this exact team last year, he had one of the greatest finishes to a game of all time. He kicked 2 goals with a minute left or something like that and won it off his own boot. So he's killed this team before, you could say, in terms of fantasy score, and I've no doubt again that he'll be up and about, ready to rip in this weekend.
Yeah, and just for a bit of data there for you too, mate, you're spot on with your thinking, and I think Schlossie is as well there, mate. I reckon you play him because the Demons are actually his easiest matchup across his career so far. He scored the most points against them. And as you said, who could forget that game where he was robbed of those 3 Brownlow votes? In that, he had his 34 touches, absurd. 25 of those were kicks. He had 4 tackles, 4 goals, and it was 181 GDS points. Like, yeah, you have salary on that. Like, how do you know that and not play him this week? It is very hard, I think. There are some really good defender options, though, as well, in saying that. I found it quite hard to really select my favourite, my top 7. But yeah, the biggest talking point this week, I guess, is anyone going to go to Naz from the Demons? We saw Harry Perriman do that for Collingwood. They sent someone to him. And I just wonder who could do it. I think my initial thoughts when Haz and I were talking about this is that Ed Langdon strikes me as a person who might be given a role. But it also depends, I guess, on Stephen King's view of tagging and what they want to do. Do they want to back their system or do they want to send a tag? And I feel like I was hearing Roscoe talk about this on the Supercoach Swordplay show with Janeth as well, saying that he might have come out in the media and potentially said they're going to back their system in. But I don't know. I'm pretty happy just to roll that because he's, as you can see there, in terms of that Stats Lab played percentages there, he's 46% selected so far. So I think that he's one we just have to roll out again.
Yeah, look, I'm with you there. Yeah, get Naz in. I don't think you need to think about it too much. And I do find it really interesting how teams will I feel like they don't tag as much at the start of the season, just based on what you said. Like they're trying to back in their system. They've had a full preseason, especially the Demons who are only rolling into their first game of the season. I don't think you want to come out and say, hey, we're actually going against our system, our team, or we don't think we have what it takes without tagging. I think they want to see a bit more first out of their team, see what they've got, see how they're going to play, and then maybe switch it up.
I agree for sure, especially a new coach there coming in. He'll want to back in his players and show that he backs in his plan too. So if we jump across there and have a look at Jack Sinclair, the partner there at the Saints, he has the monopoly in that back line, doesn't he? We saw him absolutely dominate out of the back line. But funnily enough, I'm pretty sure he had a bit of a slow start against the Pies, but he really turned it on in that second half to finish on 144 GDS points thanks to his 35 touches, 6 marks and 3 tackles. And he, again, dominated those kick-ins. He's the man that's taking the kick-ins down there for the Saints. And we always like our defenders who have, the market share of those kick-ins because it's just an easy 4 points when they play on. I think they'll persist with Nazar in the midfield as well. They're not going to make a change after 1 week. They'll back him in. But even if he is sort of floating behind the ball, I still reckon that Sinclair takes his fair share of kick-ins, as we've seen in the past, however many years. And the Ds, they're a positive matchup. They allow 79.4 GDS points to opposition defenders, which is basically the third most. So they are a good matchup, a nice green matchup. And the Ds are also Sinclair's 4th favourite matchup from his career so far. So I think in that round 20 matchup last year, he put up 145 GDS points as well. So I think he's just another safe play and a solid play this week and someone you can look at to put some salary on.
Mate, I'm totally with you. Super underrated. It probably just gets outshined by Naz being his partner in crime a lot because he's a bit younger and a little more tasty in terms of game day squad. But yeah, I reckon 85% of the weeks last year I started Sinclair. He's just too good. Can't fade him.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of that list there on screen, mate, we've got Wangadini Miller, Jack Sinclair. We've also put Whitfield, Dacos and Rosie. We really like those other 3. Is there anyone there that's standing out to you at the moment you've plugged away in your squads?
Let me have a look. How about one of your boys, mate, Dane Zorko?
You want to go to Dane Zorko? We want to chat about him?
Let's go to Dane Zorko. He had a fantastic round 0. I feel like he's a pretty good, get him in there, does his thing. 169 fantasy points last week.
Yeah, absolutely. And just the way he builds it too. Like we talked about that. They love the ball in his hands when coming out of that back half. And he really uses his kicking game. So out of his 31 disposals, 24 of those were kicks, but he had 11 marks as well. So it was that the St Kilda Collingwood game had the most marks from the round, and Collingwood themselves had the highest amount of marks I've seen for a long time. But it was the Bulldogs and the Lions game that had the next most amount of marks, and I think the Lions had 112 marks, I think, from memory. So that's that sort of shows their game style and how they want to move that ball. And Dane Zorko is a key piece. So yeah, I agree. I think that he'll be a great pick every week. But here's the thing. Like Sydney are his easiest matchup as well across his career. He scores really well against Sydney. But the thing that I want to raise is that we have a bit of a feeling that does someone go to Dane Zorko? We've got Hugh McCluggage out of the side. Lockie Neal would be a really safe bet if you want to send someone to him. But is there a potential tag for James Jordan on Dane Zorko? Because they started that tag at the beginning of that 2024 grand final. Brisbane started to get on top through the midfield and they swapped that over to Hugh McCluggage at the start of the third. So he actually held him pretty quiet in the first half of that grand final, but it just started to really open up in that second half. So I don't think we can really look at that score and go, yeah, like he's going to be a lock for a really high score again. I have a bit of an inkling that if Sydney want to shut Brisbane down, they've got the player, they've done it before, send Jordan to him. So I'm actually a little bit concerned. As a Swans supporter, mate, what's your views? Like, can you see that happening?
I definitely can. Interesting last week. I don't think we went for a tag even when things were going a little south of the first half. It was a real big tale of 2 halves here. There's definitely an opportunity and a chance that it happens. I have a feeling that it won't be the start of the game though. if we get into the game and we realize, hey, look, if we just take Zorko out of it, let's just do the tag and let's play, 17 versus 17 and just try to nullify his presence, then I could see it. But I think, and something that I guess we haven't spoken about yet, is how the new rules with the ball going out off a disposal impacts players like a Zorko, who's the connecting one, because he might not necessarily get the kick off the boundary, but they're trying to look for him as the first exit or the first mark after that free kick is given. So I know you spoke about how high his mark numbers were, and with a lot of the great defenders on the weekend, I think we're going to see that's going to be a common theme over the season for players who are that connecting halfback who like to push forward. And then get those long kicks inside forward 50, it's really going to benefit the Dane Zorkos, the Jack Sinclairs, those type of players. So I think it gives them an even further buff on top of what we've seen in years prior. But I still think Zorko's in for me.
Yeah, I've actually got him out at the moment. I'm choosing not to play Zorko in my classic team and my contender team.
Wow.
I'll play him in Challenger. But I'm actually going to fade him because it's probably not a Zorko. Yeah, it's not a Zorko thing. It's just that James Jordan potential. If he goes there, I don't want a piece of it. And I've got so many defenders I really like this week, and I'm more confident in what they're going to be able to do for me. Like, there's no question marks. That's really the only decider. And something I want to do this year is sort of back myself in a bit. And if they've sent Jordan to him before Clug's out, I think I'm going to roll with that. But there's every chance he might not go to him, but that's the risk we run. Hey,
just one last thing on it. And before we move on, because I know we've been speaking about Zorko for a little bit, but there is nothing worse than watching a footy game and seeing the player you pick get tagged. So if your gut is telling you that, I'm so for listening to your gut and just not making the call, because you regret it far more if you start the player and you look at the tag and you're like, I told myself this all week and I didn't listen, rather than just copying the other side of the ball. And if he doesn't get tagged, just being like, you know what, I missed on it, but it happens.
Yeah, 100%. So we'll see what happens. We'll see how that goes. And then there's actually a comment in here about Lockie Ash as well. We haven't put Lockie Ash on screen there as well, but in terms of his partner there down back, Lockie Whitfield, I actually like both of those picks this week up against the Dogs. Have you got a Whitfield and Ash or both in your sides this week, mate?
Yeah, I'm actually rolling both, and I'm putting a little bit of salary cap on both in Classic. I've got a gold for each in there. I just think in terms of a safety net or valve, they're super strong. They actually didn't play that well on the weekend. 100 fantasy points for Ash and 105 for Whitfield, respectively. But I just see them as being so solid. Their role, that they're going to try to find each other. They're both taking kick-ins. They're really trying to use both of those players. And as I just spoke about the rule changes, that definitely would positively impact the likes of those two when they're connecting together, pushing forward. So, I think I'm still really confident, despite having, lower scores last round, that they'll come back and they'll score really well, especially against the Western Bulldogs, who play a really high-pace game with the likes of the midfielders you spoke about before, Bont, Richards, Libba, all of them in there.
Yeah, and I don't see a tag going to them either. The Bulldogs aren't typically a team to sort of do that.
Yep.
And we saw what the Lions did last week from out of their back line in terms of their mark game. And for a Zorko with that designated kicking role, he was able to get, 10, 11 marks, whatever I had mentioned there before. So I can see Whitfield and Ash doing that again. And just for that cherry on top, the Bulldogs are both Whitfield and Ash's best matchups across their career. In that game last year as well, Whitfield had 143 GDS points last time they played last year, and Ash had 170 GDS points. So that was 12 marks for Lockie Ash, 25 kicks. So I just think under the lid, they've come off an okay performance. I just think that I'm pretty keen to be locking both of those in. And as I said with Zorko, the only question mark I have is, are they going to send Jordan to him? And there's every chance they don't. There's every chance he scores really well. And I'm still playing a Zorko in Challenger, but I just think I want to have a Nash and I want to have a Whitfield across a lot of my competitions this week for those reasons.
Absolutely with you there. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, nice. And Connor Rozee as well on screen there too. The first time we get to select him in our backlines for season 2026. I think he's almost a must-play this week in your backlines. The question I have, though, is what's his role going to be? I probably don't really care, to be honest, whether he's playing through the midfield or the back line against the North Melbourne Kangaroos. So I think I'll be locking him away, and I'll be pretty happy to be playing him in my side. Have you got your Connor Rozee stocks all sorted?
Yeah, mate. I'm playing the highest possible card you can as a platinum this week. I actually think I'll prefer seeing him play off the halfback. Maybe in this matchup against the Kangas, you would want to see him in the midfield because I have a feeling Port are going to be real silky through there. But for the season, what role I would prefer Connor Rozee to be in, that halfback role, he almost was even better than the start of last year once he made that switch, and he just hasn't looked like he's going back. And getting kick-ins on someone with like Connor Rozee with how good he can be around the ground is quite juicy and tasty, especially when you're picking them in your squad. So, mate, definitely for Rozee. He's probably my number one ranked defender this round.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I have him up there as well. I think that, he had 173 GDS points in that Amy Series game against the Crows. Like, he just looked absolutely incredible. And he scored well in the past against North as well, and they're a positive matchup in themselves to midfielders. So I think it's one that, we don't overthink. We lock them in and, see what salary we can be putting onto a Connor Rozee. Are you going to be playing a Josh Dacos alongside him? Are you keen on a Josh Dacos? And did you like what you saw last weekend? Because it was a really juicy role he had, and didn't they look to use him?
Mate, absolutely. Am I keen? Yes, I am. This preseason, I think on X, I said I think Josh Dacos will take the biggest jump in terms of rankings for any player, and he definitely proved me right. Interesting, though, that Dan Houston got the majority of kick-ins for Collingwood. I would have thought that would have naturally gone to Dacos. But even with that, only taking, 35% of the kick-ins for Collingwood on the weekend, you saw how much of the ball he got. He really is their star sort of half-back player. He can play a little loose sometimes. He gets really aggressive, runs to the ball and uses it extremely well. And he's got his brother in there as well, and they love to go 1-2 with each other. So absolutely, his role's really good. And I think he showed on the weekend how good he can be over the year if he continues to play within that.
Yeah, it was actually really hard to watch, knowing I didn't play him in that Challenger competition. And just every time they got the ball to him, it's like +7, +7, +7. And you're just watching his score tick over. There's not much you could do. So I was glad I played him in other comps. But, they really go out of their way at the moment to look for him. He's got that clear role, doesn't he? So I think he should score well.
The ball should be back there quite a bit. So there should be plenty of opportunity for him even still to get the ball, use it really well and score big.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm keen. He's scored well in the past against the Crows, and I think I'm happy to sort of lock him in to my squads again this week and rectify the mistake from last week. And comment on screen here too, talking about those defender options. Like, this is an interesting one I have from Janeth. G'day, Janeth. How are you, mate? You can see there on screen, John Noble versus Christian Salem, because there's more defender options. They're coming out of everywhere. And I am personally really keen on Christian Salem this week. He is someone who I locked in pretty quickly when I saw that he was playing. And for the reason that just what St Kilda allowed last week, like they had, 141 or 147 marks, to Collingwood. And as he said there, they had Josh Dacos had over 10 marks. They had Billy Frampton had 13 marks. Cal's mate. How Billy Frampton gets 13 marks in a game absolutely blows my mind. Yeah. Dan Houston over double digits for marks. Isaac Quainer over double digits for marks. They don't stop that. And I think it was Pendles or Dacos after the game. They said, they don't come to us. We just sort of move the footy and we're happy to do that. We'll take that if teams give that to us. And the Saints do that. So I think Christian Salem, I don't see a world where he doesn't get anything less than 10 marks this weekend, especially because they've got Stephen May, who's retired. They've got Jake Bowie out. They've obviously had, key players leave the club through their midfield. So I think Trent Rivers, for example, I've been keen on him this preseason. I can see him rolling through the midfield. So there's every chance that I think Christian Salem can put up a massive score. So, Janeth, I don't know if you're keen on a Christian Salem there, mate. So am I. I've locked him into all my squads. And he's a big reason, Christian Salem there, as to why I'm not playing a Dane Zorko. I really like a Whitfield. I like an Ash. I like a Rozee. I like a Salem. I like Dacos. Yep. By the time you add them all up, you're really coming down to a few little things as to who you're not playing. And as I said, I want to back my gut. Christian Salem, I feel like he's going to go big. So I'm going to be trying to play him if I can.
Love it.
What are you thinking? Have you been looking at a Salem this week at all just yet?
Yeah, there's a lot of good players that I'm high on for the year. I guess it's just going to come down to matchup and just identifying who I think is going to get more opportunity or not. Like we haven't spoken about Clark, Noble. You got Salem that you just mentioned there. There are some really good defender options that I'm considering putting through. So I've definitely considered Salem. I think I want to see it before. Like I guess you spoke about the matchup, which definitely indicates like if there is a round to do it, it could be this one. Even Bailey Dale, we haven't spoken about. He's been really strong over the years as well. So there's a plethora, almost too many defenders to put in now. So it really comes down to what your gut's telling you, what you think their role's going to be, and how much opportunity you think you're going to get. So I don't mind this thought process with Zorko, with you not wanting to start him, because there are actually a really good amount of strong defenders that you can chuck into your squad. I guess where you'll see the difference between some of the better coaches and the ones that are more average is who can nail the ones that are going to be good on a week-to-week basis, depending on who they're versing, etc.
And it's so easy to talk about, and it's so hard to actually pull it off. That's the difference. So we'll see. And funnily enough, I'd say I had a good I had a good week in GameDay Squad last week. But
very much
the scary thing is that I have never put 2 good weeks together. So we'll have to see if this translates or not. But yeah, John Noble, my only thing with him is that he hasn't had a good past against West Coast, and I just worry that the Suns will really dominate out of the midfield, and he may not get as much ball as what other defenders will, or what he even got against the Cats last week. That's my only little flag with him. So I'll be playing him in Sunday and locking him in there. I'm very happy to, but I just think I've got some other defenders this week above a John Noble. Jordan Clark, he should be good, absolutely. In terms of that Sunday comp, I like a Trent Rivers for the Sunday comp. I like a Miles Bergman for the Sunday comp at the Power. I just hope he gets that midfield role. We'll have to see what that looks like. And I know he's had a bit of a foot issue in the past as well. And for those coaches who are getting into the under-22s competition, some of those players who stood out last week, we had Ollie Hollins score really well from the Blues, Lockie Jakes, Connor O'Sullivan, Joe Fonte. You know, they had really, really good games, and particularly Connor O'Sullivan. He was such a solid pick for us. And Joe Fonte was just incredible. I was pretty lucky I had a platinum of him. So I think I got kissed there in terms of the score he put up. And then in terms of who we haven't seen, Ryan Marrick from the Eagles. We haven't actually seen him yet this season. So if you're looking at filling out your under-22 squad, have a look and see if you've got a Ryan Marrick there, because with Tom McCarthy moving into the midfield, I think that Marrick's going to have a bit of ball distribution out of there. And it will just be interesting to see how Josh Lindsay works in with him. But I do think that Ryan Marrick would be a really solid play most weeks, I think, in that competition. And then can't forget about Archie Roberts from the Bombers, Caleb Windsor for the Demons there. They're all available there for us. Caleb Windsor, as a defender, but he's playing in that midfield role. So I really like a lot of those players this week in our 22s, as well as the players we saw last week. So I think we're spoilt for choice again there.
Totally with you, mate.
Lovely.
Totally with you.
Mate, let's move on. We'll jump into our midfielders for the week, and we'll talk about who we're looking at there. I think the midfield line is going to be very, very interesting as well this week, because there's a few matches that stand out to me, and there's a few others that I think I'm finding really hard to pick from. So if you were looking at a couple of names on there on screen, which one or two sort of really jumped out at you first this week when building your squads?
Zach Butters, for sure, with the matchup against the Kangas. I'm loving putting Zach Butters in. I feel really confident, especially in a contract year as well. He's going to want to make a statement. He's going to want to play his absolute best, because he's got a lot on the line. And I like that little bit of extra motivation. I know he's not too worried about my fantasy team, but it will definitely convert. But the next one would be Noah Anderson. And you spoke about potentially Noble not playing as well. Probably means someone like Noah Anderson plays a little better. He can push forward. He can kick goals. He didn't have his kicking boots on the weekend, unfortunately, in front of the sticks, but absolutely. I think Noah against West Coast in that last game is a player that a lot of people will be really excited to play, especially with how good they played on the weekend against a team like Geelong. I think it's gonna zip for them.
And they smashed them too. I was really surprised. I was not expecting it. We kind of expected the Cats to come out and tag Noah Anderson, and we spoke about that last week. So we were looking at fading him. Yeah, we didn't play a Noah Anderson at all across our squads, and we were right. But when the Suns started to blow away the Cats, they dropped that, and so he started to get a bit of ball and he put up a decent score in the end. He got his way to 117, but thankfully it's not enough to burn us for fading him. And it wouldn't have burned anyone who did play him. I think he was just a solid pick. Like I played a Heaney who got 115, for example. So he worked out to be all right in the end. And he worked his way to, 24 disposals, 5 marks, 3 tackles. But it was a game that, he could have had a bigger score. He kicked 4 behinds as well in saying that. But I think that West Coast this week at home, they're the third easiest matchup for opposition mids. They give up, 5.3 points above the league average in terms of what teams concede to opposition mids. So I just think he's one that you're locking in really in the form that they've had. He had an okay game that round 1. I can just see him exploding in round 2. In round 1.
In round 1, just something I guess to consider, and I don't know how much this or how much you think about it when you're building your squad, is potentially it could be a little wet on the weekend. So if it is raining and is wet, are you still confident in starting Noah because he will play in the middle, or do you think that impacts his ceiling?
No, I try not to think about it too much. I think, even over the weekend, I tried to stay away from making any changes to my squads. I was flirting with a few ideas, but I really tried to stay away from it. And I just think the matchup here probably outweighs the weather for me. And I'm especially given Noah Anderson. If we're talking about a key forward, for example, and I was looking at targeting that matchup in my forward line, I would probably consider the weather more. But for a Noah Anderson, for example, I'm pretty happy to just back in that he's going to get his tackles and rack up the footy. And there's every chance that weather holds off anyway. So I think I'm still pretty happy to be locking him into my squads. And then interesting comment here as well, fading Bont. I wouldn't say we're fading Bontempelli. I just think in terms of those 5 we've got there on screen, we're really keen on those particular matchups. But with Bontempelli, it's an interesting discussion because he faces the GWS Giants this week. And his role last week was interesting. He had 44% CBA. So they had Ed Richards at 71%. They had Libba, and they had who else did they had? Libba, Richards.
Let me have a look for you.
Yeah, they had another one as
Kennedy.
well there as well. Kennedy, that's right,
Kennedy.
Matt Kennedy. How can I forget about Matt Kennedy? And he had a great score too with 130 points for his coaches. So they were the 3 in the midfield, and then Bontempelli came through with 44% CBAs, which really surprised me. But he still got to 110, which just shows how good a player he is. So I think still play him. I'm not playing him in Classic, and I'm not playing him in Contender from memory. I'll be playing him in Challenger. There's just other matchups I really like. I think against the Giants, they're actually not a good matchup for him. They're the team he's scored worst against across his whole career. He hasn't had a really good big score against them for a long time. He'll be solid. He'll have a really good score still, but I just think that there's other matchups and ceilings I'm targeting this week that, again, a bit like that Zorko discussion, I've got to figure out who I'm not playing, and I think that's just one thing I've lent on. Have you got a Bontempelli in your side?
I actually am missing one midfielder spot, and Bontempelli is currently not in. He's not in the squad at the moment. He's definitely one that I'm considering. I'm also really nervous about, I just see a comment there, Bailey Smith. I sort of alluded to it at the start of the episode, but maybe it's a great time to get your insight on it there, Pitty. Last year had an average over the whole season of 70% CBAs, and last week we only saw it just north of 40. How much? And, we're talking about the number 1 averaging player from 2025 in our Aussie rules game. How much do you buy into that? How much confidence do you lose? Are we overreacting by just analysing this one small sample size? Like, what are your general thoughts in terms of Bailey Smith? Well, clearly he's not part of the top 5, but is he close to the 6? Is he faded off for you now? Is it really risky to start him considering all this? What's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think that a few coaches will move off him this week for those reasons. I didn't initially think of him, too much when I was building my squads. It was the Butters and the Andersons, and it was Sam Walsh who also came to mind pretty quickly, Dacos and Dawson. But the more I looked at it, I actually am really keen on Bailey Smith, and he's going to round out my Contender and my actually, I think I've got him in all squads from memory this week. I'm going to back him in. I'm going to back in the talent that he's got. I am a little bit concerned about the CBAs, but I still think down at Geelong against the Freo Dockers, he had a really good round 1 score last year against them. He went absolutely bananas, and I don't have the actual number there for you what he had, but from memory, it was a really good score. And I just think that this is a great instance where we have a player who hasn't had an amazing score, But I think he could absolutely explode. And, he's still scored 97 GDS points, which
It's crazy to
if
say
that's
that.
his floor, if that's what he's putting up and we're not happy with it, well, I'm just happy to back him in. And especially when I'm looking at a Bontempelli and I'm going, what's the upside this week? Other than the fact he's a star, other than the fact he's a really good player, there's no other boxes being ticked for me this week. But at least with Bailey Smith, I can sort of say I'm happy with the matchup. I like what he's done on the Dockers in the past. He was the best scoring player last year. I'm just happy to back him in. I think that he'll be happy to get back down in front of the Cats fans. And I'm going to back him in this week. I like the play. So that's kind of where I'm standing on him at the moment.
I got one more for you whilst you're rolling, mate, because I'd love to know. I want to talk about a player that's not on your list. And I know you were very high on him in the preseason. I saw a particular short come out saying that he could be the number one scoring player. We're talking about my boy, Errol Goulden. Where is he?
No, don't bring that up this week. Not this week. I'll talk to you next week about Goulden. I'm 141 points last week. Like, how good was he? I know you said you didn't play him last week, and
I didn't start the All-Star. I did start him, but I did have an All-Star of him that I normally just will set and forget, but I second-guessed myself at the last minute.
Oh, mate, if he wants to come over to the Mucks, we're happy to look after his All-Star card in our
He'll be in better hands, that's for sure.
Yeah. Look, I love his midfield role with 59% CBAs. So that's a really big tick for me. I actually think he probably doesn't benefit too much, whether he's inside or outside. He's just that good a player. Yeah. And I even saw he snuck down to take a kick in. Like, that is absolute piggery from a midfielder just going, I'm going to come and take this kick in. Yeah. Move out of the way, Callum Mills. You're not doing much. So I like him again. I think you could put Goulden. I think you could put Bont. They're two just sort of jumping out at me at the moment that you can pretty much play every week. I think they're good selections this week. If you've got cards of them and you've got all-stars, you've got high rarities, or you might be missing a couple of players on our lists up here, still play them. They're going to be pretty good. I've got no reason why you shouldn't play them. I just think, again, there's probably a few others I like more. Brisbane have been a relatively neutral matchup for him in the past. He hasn't really put up massive scores against them. They're still going to have Lockie Neal. Yep. Will Ashcroft will have more time in there. Again, it's one of those things that if I'm looking for what's the reason why he's going to do a 141 again, or what's the reason why he's going to, potentially even go higher, I have nothing sort of outside the fact it's Errol Goulden, which is probably a good enough reason in itself. But with a few others, I've there's more things I'm chasing, like a Noah Anderson against the Eagles, for example. I think he can push forward and hit the scoreboard. He'll rack up, and they're an easy matchup. Butters, I think North Melbourne are weak through the midfield, and I think that he just absolutely bullies those weak teams. So there's just a few other players this week I'm chucking in that I have more upside in.
So it's not a fact of that it's a bad matchup or anything of that. It's more that you're looking at other matchups that are just a little better in your opinion. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yep. And I think if there's coaches that want to, if they don't want to chase the Noah Anderson, if they don't want to chase the Zach Butters, or it's probably more so the Sam Walsh, to be honest, that's sitting there. If you don't want to chase the Sam Walsh because, he's been injury prone in the past and, we've only seen one game so far in the real season. Well, then, you can go your Errol Goulden, and I think that would be a really good call as well. Now, on Sam Walsh as well, I just mentioned him there. He was one of the first players that came to my mind this week. Have you had any thoughts about a Sam Walsh this week?
Yeah, I definitely have. First game, literally less than a day away from first ball up, which is fantastic. He looked so good in against us in the first round and opening round in the first game of the season. I just thought he looked back to his best. He was just in and around the ball. He looked really clean. He was getting plenty of it, pushing forward. He gets really aggressive, and he was their best player for sure. I feel like the thing that can get a little frustrating with Sam Walsh is that he'll have a really good half or have really good quarter, and then he can go missing a little bit, which probably just limits that huge boom potential with some games, because that game could have easily have been a boom, 140 plus for him, especially with the way that he started. But he just has those periods of the game where he can go missing. But absolutely, in terms of talent, in terms of matchup, if you're wanting to hunt someone who can score huge, Sam Walsh has everything plus more that you could look for. So I think especially with how last game went for Carlton, they're going to want to come out. They're going to want to play their absolute best footy because that second half was nothing to be proud of, and they're all going to know that. And I think as a group, they'll rally and they're going to want to make a statement tomorrow night.
Yeah. For sure, and the Tigers are a good matchup as well. They give up a lot of points there for opposition midfielders, and if you go back to 2024, because last year was sort of injury affected, he had 141 GDS points on them. So I just think, it's another one there that you could be looking at.
And how about the revenge
lots
from
of
last
picks.
season as well? I think, if I'm not mistaken, didn't they verse them early last year and lost? So not only just what happened with the Swans and everything was spoken about,
Yeah.
but just having that in the back of their mind about how that game went last year, they absolutely have everything to play for, and I think they show up for it.
They do, absolutely. And I think I'll back them too, and I'll back Sam Walsh too as well, because he just looked, great last week. And he did get clamped a little bit in that second half from James Jordan once he got off the chain, so he slowed down. But I don't think anyone from Richmond can go with a Sam Walsh who's fully fit. So I'm happy to sort of back that in, because I liked what I saw. And some great comments there in the chat as well about a few other picks we could be looking at. There's just so many options. But before we move on to the rucks, mate, just for those under 22 players as well in that competition, both Ashcrofts, I think they're a lock in that competition.
Oh, yeah.
Cooper Lord looked really good. He comes up against the Tigers this week, so I think Cooper Lord is another great shout. Thanks to Janeth there, who got us onto that one. Harry Rouston was good, but had low time on ground, and he's playing a bit of that pseudo sub type role as that fifth man on the bench. But I think he still scores quite well. His points per minute are elite. So in that under 22 comps, I don't mind him again. But here's who we haven't seen yet is Harley Reid, Xavier Lindsay, and Harvey Langford as midfielders for our under 22 competition, as well as the plethora of draftees from this year's draft crop. But I like the look of a few of those 22s, mate. Any thoughts on those before we move on to our rucks?
Nah, mate, I'm going to have to take your word on that. I'm well out of the scene there. I'm with you. Let's go to some rucks.
Lovely. The rucks this week will be very, very interesting, and I think we probably can't go past the big llama there in Tim English on screen. I think he's our number one ruck for the week. We think he'll just be absolutely massive. He put up 121 points last week. The Lions are typically a restrictive matchup for rucks. So, for him to come out and do that, particularly with all these questions around ruck rules, yes, we thought English was still going to be great, but just to do that was really comforting. And, he comes out this week against Big Briggsy, and I think that, he's going to be a really good matchup for Tim English. I think English will just run him off his legs. I can see him killing Briggsy down there under the lid.
Yeah.
He'll push forward. He'll make him really accountable. He'll try and hit the scoreboard. I just think that, that's really, really good. And the Giants are his fourth favourite matchup across his career. And even last year, his two outings, he had 143 and 132. So I think you can lock the big llama in this week.
Wow. That is good to hear. English gang. Let's go.
Absolutely. Yeah, not good for my keeper squad if I'm coming up against you or whoever's got you this week. Have you got him?
No, I do not. But I'm a huge Tim English man. Callum, actually.
Is that Cal? Oh,
yeah, he took him.
There you go. He'll be happy with
from
that.
Me. Cheeky bugger.
Yeah. So who's your second ruck then? Who are you looking at that from that list? Because there's a few that we've picked out.
Yeah, look, I think my heart's telling me Grundy. I really think that we haven't seen the full impact of the ruck rule. I thought Cameron for Collingwood played really, really well on the weekend, and I was a little nervous that we might see a big dip in his performance with these new rules and everything that's happening, but he was bloody fantastic. He was everywhere, and he was going up against TDK and Marshall, so he had two premier rucks in the competition on the same team, and I think he outscored both. So that was really positive in terms of what his season could look like.
It was incredible, wasn't it? Like, I actually didn't play him. I was so hot him in the preseason because he's one of those ruckmen that people forget about, and he still scores really well in transition. Yep. So he was never going to be affected by these rules, but everyone was going to overlook him. I just didn't jump in opening round because we had Grundy, we had English, we had a reduced player pool. It was the safe play, and they were going to be great. And the question mark, was around the two-headed monster there in terms of TDK and Marshall. Exactly. And I thought, I'm happy just to watch that one this week. And if he goes well, he goes well. I don't think I'll be hurt by that. But this week, do you know who he comes up against?
Who's come up against this week? Crows.
He's got the Crows.
He does.
And it's not Riley O'Brien. He's coming up against the first gamer in Lockie McAndrew at the MCG. And McAndrew faced Vizentini in the preseason Amy series. And Vizentini was number one, Port's number one ruck. And it looks like he will be this weekend too. And he had 77 GDS points from 77% time on ground. So he had a 1 point per minute. He had 34 hit outs. He had 1 mark, 1 tackle, and 10 touches. And that's Dante Vizentini.
Yeah.
I actually reckon that Cameron, who had 131
That's a
GDS
scary
points
thought.
last week against TDK, yeah, I've got him in I've got Grundy in English and Challenger,
Yep.
but I'm going Cameron and English across Contender and Classic. I just think that this could be a bloodbath. And there's other great matchups too, like Gorn's got a good matchup and Jerry has a great matchup. So this will be so interesting to see the way coaches go, and this will really diversify squads, and it's going to sort of muck up the rankings a bit, I reckon, at the end of the weekend. But Cameron is one. Just with that matchup, I am super keen to chuck him in and see how he goes.
For sure. And in terms of a backup ruck for Collingwood, they didn't really use one like at all in terms of people winning hitouts or anything. They're just fully trusting that Cameron's going to get it done for them this year, which is a real, I guess, sigh of relief, because I wasn't sure how all this stuff was going to impact rucks. And I think people speculated in the offseason that rucks would be hurt the most by all of these rule changes, but to still see him come out. But he's more of a mobile one, so probably plays in his favour a little more, like you spoke about with English.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of the next two that we're talking about, I do definitely have some big question marks, but it's just so hard to go past Max Gawn with how good that he's been over the history of his career. And in my opinion, fantasy aside, still the best ruck in the competition, just to watch and how he goes about it. So, and then the big X there as well. How does it impact him? He's got Vicentini, I think, this week. So how's he going to go against him, who was a bit of a lighter matchup last season at least? So there's some really good ruck options. But I think my heart is leaning English Grundy, but you might talk me into Cameron by the time this is all said and done with all of that.
Yeah, well, I think that's where I'm landing this week. But as I said, I still need to have a Grundy somewhere, I think. But yeah, Tristan Cherry, in terms of Port Adelaide, they're his second favourite matchup, and he just absolutely bullies them. And in particular, he bullies Vicentini, who's their number one ruck.
Yes.
So yeah, last year he had 132 and 130 GDS points on them. So there's every chance that he'll do the same again. But he just didn't look very good in that preseason game. Like, they showed some highlights of him trying to jump at, those ball ups in the middle, and he just didn't look good. So
yeah,
I'll play him in my Sunday comp, but at least with the others we've seen, we have a bit more of a, sample size in terms of the data to suggest they'll, what they'll do this weekend. So I think I'm happy to watch. But if you want a really spicy pod, I think it's a Tristan Cherry.
Love it.
Yeah, and Gawn, as you said, solid there, mate. So, probably the only other one there we haven't touched on who's not on screen that people could go for this week is Luke Jackson. Have you had any thoughts about a Luke Jackson this week?
Yeah, I definitely have. I think I'm going to be starting him in my challenger to do things a little bit different. I don't really like to start the exact same pairing across all competitions, and then it gives me an opportunity to use a Platt Jackson that I wouldn't use in another competition there. I think him being a mobile ruck, and with these new rule changes, I think the speculation was that someone like Luke Jackson is going to be the ideal ruckman, with all of these rules put into place. And maybe in 5 years' time, we're going to go away from the big, tall rucks like your Coxes, that you just get someone who's big that can tap and they're not really mobile. We might see that we're just looking at athletic freaks like Luke Jackson going in the middle that can do it all, because that's just how the game's evolved. So maybe in 5 years, there'll be many more Luke Jacksons running around, or a little longer, but definitely a consideration. And going up against Geelong, who don't really have a key number one ruck as well. I just wonder what his role looks like, how much time he plays forward. And if he is playing forward, we're just going to need to get to see him just get effective on the scoreboard. They've got a lot of good forwards at Freo, a lot of key forwards who can take marks and kicks goals. If he can find a spot in there where he starts to average 1-2 goals a game plus plays a lot of ruck time, then I think I'll have a lot more confidence starting Jackson over the likes of the rucks on screen.
I agree completely. I have questions over his role and what he's going to do, and he just gets thrown around at times. And that's my only thing with him as well. I completely agree. He is. He's too versatile for his own good. So when that role starts to get reduced for him, so we have Darcy might go out, for example, but they've got Mason Cox there now as well, who's taking those ruck minutes too. So if something happened to those two, or there was a clear change that he's the number one ruck, I'd be very keen to play him. It's just, again, I actually don't think his scoring as a midfielder is going to be enough for a ruck line, and I'm happy to be proven wrong by that. But they're probably my question marks over him. And then there's a question there, or a player mentioned, there in the chat as well by Nate Daddies. Is Witsy an option this week for us? I personally don't think so. He had a good matchup last week against the Cats. The Cats are a great ruck matchup.
Correct.
And he still only put up 82 GDS points. Eagles are another great matchup, and I just think the matchup is not enough for me this week to pick him. The only place, if you had like a really high salary card for him, chuck one in your Sunday showdown. But I just don't think it's enough for me to sort of pick him over an English Grundy Cameron, for example, in a standard comp.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. It's just the upside. Unfortunately, Witsy is that old school type of ruck. He plays his role extremely well, but in terms of fantasy output and scoring, he's not getting around the ground. He's not trying to, take a mark, go back, kick inside forward 50. He's always hands off. He's trying to give the handball to the runners like Noble, like Rioli, running off in there. So you just don't really see just those sequences where he can rack up a lot of fantasy points. They're more spread out over the game, and he doesn't really kick too many goals either over the season. So I just think it's an upside thing. And even in a really good matchup, you've spoken about how good some of the matchups are here for these people who can push back, push forward as well, kick goals. I'd much rather have my confidence in one of the 5 on screen than to go a big pod play in Witsy and have to watch him go up against West Coast on the weekend.
Yeah, exactly. And I think if he does put up a good score, I think you just take your hat off to him and just know that you're not going to get burnt on the leaderboards. Yeah, exactly right. But I don't mind that play in the Sunday showdown as a bit of a pod. But just mind you, we have Gawn and Cherry to choose from in that competition too. So yeah, just keep an eye out on that one. Now, mate, moving across to our forwards for the week. This is our last line, and then we're going to jump into the contender team. So Haz and I will show our contender teams for the week, and then we've got our BroDown ShowDown winners to go through as well, which we'll do soon. So, mate, how good did Petrarca look? We've got to start there. What an absolute star. Like, I can't believe how good he actually looked last week in his new colours, and particularly against the Cats matchup, who they're pretty good as a matchup for opposition mids. Like, as long as someone's not tagging a player, they should still be all right. So they come out sort of slightly positive, about 1 point above, that league average for points conceded. So they're a pretty good matchup, but he just took it to another level. Like, he had 58% CBAs, so he was the 4th mid there behind Powell, Anderson and Davies. But he pushed forward, he impacted, hit the scoreboard for 3 goals, and he looked elite. So I think that we have to be, choosing him this week as he comes up against the Eagles, because the Eagles give up 7.3 points above the league average to opposition forwards, and the 3rd most amount of points to mids, which is 5.3 points above the league average. So if you're looking at like a green matchup and who's got a good matchup this week, it's Christian Petrarca. He's in form. He's having fun. He's cooking in his own time whenever he wants. He's fishing. And he's just doing whatever he wants with that ball in hand. So I think he was one I was like, I don't know if I'll put salary on him. But, gee, I should have. That was a great score.
Yeah, I've got a platinum card, and currently I'm really loving this West Coast matchup that he has on the weekend. And I think I love it even more, especially whilst Matty Rowell is out. I think when Matty Rowell comes back in, I might think about it a little bit more, what the CBA split looks like, especially with Powell having a couple more than him in the midfield. How do they want to run that system? But, he's really diverse. And if he's hitting the scoreboard like that, then we can expect many more 120-plus performances in games. So, yeah, I'm totally with you. Matchup is green. He's going to continue to play in the midfield for the time being. And, West Coast, unfortunately, give up, the most points in the AFL against other teams. And I think Petrarca is going to want to hop in on that party and have a bit more fun this weekend as well. So a great first outing.
Yeah.
And I don't think the momentum will stop. He's going to want to come out firing again.
He will, absolutely. And they've lost so much experience as well, the Eagles. Like, they've had so many players retire or, move on that I just, I worry who's going to stand up for them.
Like, I just can't see anyone that's going to run with him, that's going to go to him. And they've got a lot more issues on their plate than just Petrarca. We spoke about Noah before. They're going to have a handful with King down in the defence as the key forward. Humphrey's there. Like, there's a lot of people to be worrying about. And I think Track gets in on this party and has a great day. So he's going to be huge. I love Flanders at second. And is this in order of how you do this, by the way? Is it like first, second, or you just put the 5 best?
We put the 5 best. Okay. You could probably say, this one's probably not in order. Like, we'd have Myers above Pickett for sure, but we just put the 5 best on the screen. I would probably say, though, this week, I would go Petrarca, flip a coin between Flanders and Sheasel, and then I'd have Myers over Pickett. But, they're probably our 5. I think, Flanders had a great game last week as well. Yeah. It was a slow start against the Pies, but he still racked up 28 touches and 115 GDS points, which in our forward line is just absolute gold. And I think he'll only be better for that run as well. And and he was playing behind the ball at times too, and he looked really good. So I think in a bit of a positive matchup against the D's, who've lost some big name mids, Petrarca, Oliver, and Viney.
Yep.
I like what he can do running through that midfield, and he's had some pretty good scores against them when going through them at the Suns. He's put up a 99, a 100, and a 115 in the past, but I think he can go better than that this week. And as a forward, we just know what we're going to get.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Love it. She's all in there. I feel like most weeks he's going to be set and forget. Potentially that top three by the time the season's all said and done could almost be set and forget just because of the role and they're forward eligible in GameDay Squad. But I guess the next two are sort of what interests me, especially Cozzy Pickett. I was a big fan last year. We saw in the preseason more CBAs. Are you high on Cozzy Pickett this year? And what do you reckon that ceiling could look like if he's at his best?
Yeah, I think it'd probably be similar to what we saw last year. I don't know if I predict any more upside.
Okay.
I just think he'll be a really good pick. If he's going to have more upside, it's probably that natural progression. But we know what role he's going to play. He'll be in the midfield because they've lost a few of those key mids, and he's now one of the players they'll be leaning on in there as one of their main CBA guys. So I think that Cozzy's going to do what we saw last year, and I think he's a great play again this year too. So I do really like him. He's obviously one of the 2025 All-Star cards that people have at their disposal, and I think he's a good play this week in the forward line. Had some pretty decent scores on them in the past as well, the Saints there. Again, nothing, ceiling-wise, but 99 points was in there. He had 19 touches, 11 kicks. Pretty solid game. 7 tackles as well, though. But, yeah, I just like his midfield role. It just elevates his floor. I just hope he doesn't put up a really poor score like he has done in the past. I would love him this year. Just get those really dirty scores out of his score profile. That would be really nice and be a little bit more consistent.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I still think he'd be a great choice this year for sure because of that midfield role.
Well, actually, I've read a comment here and it's reminded me of something I was reading today. There's actually a chance that he might not even be playing this week due to some personal issues going on. I know he's just gotten on a flight, but if he does play, I'm definitely all for it. I think the upside is too high, but yeah, that's a good consideration and something that I'm going to have to watch for my squad because he's currently in.
Yeah, he's in my squads too, and I didn't even see that until really late this afternoon before coming on, so I had completely forgotten about it as well, and I haven't read it all to completely understand the scenario too, but that's a really great flag. We've got to keep an eye on that as coaches, just see if he's actually in the squad or not. Keep an eye on teams tomorrow night, and if he's out, we're going to have to look elsewhere. So I think Brian Myers is going to be another really safe play, particularly off his score last week. He had, what was that score last week? 138 GDS points last week. And as you mentioned too, yeah, he had, there were concerns around him coming off an injury and back into the team and what's he going to do? They're up against the Suns. There were just a few little question marks around him. But, I asked Haz this last week. I said, so if he's named, are you going to play him? And he didn't think twice. He said 100%. He's like, he's just such a good player.
Too good.
But to put up 138, how good was that? 10 marks, 16 kicks.
Outstanding. I think where it gets interesting then, if we're talking about this round, is like, where do you go from here? A couple of names that I have that I might list off and maybe give you some thoughts is Riley Thilthorpe off his form from last year. Is a key forward, will potentially play some ruck time and maybe some more time in the middle there with Riley being out as well and having to have a debutant come in and take the ruck duty. So I wonder what that looks like. But, of course, that matchup there, we spoke about it before, against the Pies, I think it's going to be a great game.
Yeah.
And I don't know if anyone is going to be able to go with someone like Riley. If I'm not mistaken, Moore still should be out as well. Yeah. So like
Jeremy Howe as well.
Yeah, like their premier defender or their key forward, the person they will put on them isn't going to be playing. So that could just mean a feast for Riley. And then the other one is someone who played last week that you spoke about before is Connor McDonald. Looks really good for Hawthorn. Yeah. They're going up against Essendon, have some time through the middle. I guess he didn't get as many disposals as I would have loved, but of course it was a bit of a tough matchup for them against the Giants in round 0. I think there's more opportunity to score in round 1 for him. And if he is cracking that 100 points mark, I think that's a huge win for that bottom range of forwards. And I'll definitely take that.
Yeah. Well, just to sort of confirm what you're thinking there, mate, we were sort of talking in the preseason that when you look back at all the data, when the Hawks play with and without Will Day, he gets the biggest scoring bump. So he got last week it was 14 points, sort of what we were sort of expecting in that preseason. We thought he'd get about that, and he did pretty well. He was the fourth highest scorer for the Hawks there, and it was only from really 77% time on ground, so he can score quite well. And as you said, he looked good going through there. But the thing this week as well, Essendon last year, they conceded the fourth most amount of points to opposition forwards and the second most points to opposition mids. So as you said, it's a great matchup. And he's scored really well against them in the past. I think he was one of the better matchups that he's come up against. And last year he put up a good score in that first round as well. So he's one that every time I look through those key things I look for when picking a player, he's ticking all those boxes and in a position in those last three forward spots where, we are really going, who's it going to be? Who's going to round out our forward line? Yep. If he's ticking all those boxes, I'm pretty happy to put him in because he didn't put a foot wrong last week for me.
Love it.
And then, Sam Darcy is probably another one that people are going to talk about, and Toby Green as well. I'm probably a bit more keen on a Toby Green than I am a Sam Darcy. It probably depends on Sam Taylor for me and whether Sam Taylor plays or not. But what are your thoughts on Darcy and Green? Have you got either of those in your squads or have you looked at them yet?
I currently don't. I'll tell you one thing about Toby Green that I'm absolutely certain of, that if I start him, he's going to stink it up because my history will tell that every time I put him in my squad, he has an off week. And then when I don't, he'll have a really good week and play really well. So
really?
I'll confirm with you on Thursday night when team lists come out, if I am in the community in the Discord there. And if I am, just absolutely get off shit. But look, he did look really good. They need him to step up. They need him to play well. But I just don't know that if I'm like weighing up between MacDonald and Toby, I don't think he wins that for me at the moment because I have Riley Thilthorpe in my squad pretty cemented. I'm pretty happy to run the gauntlet there with the kicking or the goal kicking upside. But Darcy's definitely the big one. Last year, he's just had some performances, especially in matchups like against the Giants, where you think, you know what, like this isn't the round. He's going to get marked out of the game. This will be it. And he kicks 4 goals or something like that.
Yeah.
And you're like, just all the numbers would have told you this is not a Sam Darcy week. But your eyes just tell a whole different story when you watch this kid play because he is a freak. Yeah. So he's really hard to fade. I didn't think he looked as sharp last week. And it's probably why I'm not putting him into my squad. And especially with how I think the game could go, I don't know if there's going to be as much opportunity. But in what I would consider a lighter matchup across the season, I think I'm a little more pro Sam Darcy in the squad. But I'm looking at more of those sort of midfield type players. And my key forwards are pretty locked with like a Riley as being the head of that this week. So I don't like to start too many key forwards because you want that more upside with people who get the disposals. So that's sort of where my head's landed for the round.
I'm with you there on that one. The thing with Sam Darcy too, he still put up 70-something points, and I reckon he had a really terrible game. So he could still find a way to an okay score. Like it's not a 43 that's going to kill your week, but that's the one thing with him. If you want to play him, is that he can somehow get his way to a respectable score. But Toby Green, mate, if you're worried about history with Toby Green, well, how's this history? He's kicked multiple goals against the Dogs in his last 14 games against them, which dates back to 2015.
You're kidding.
And he's kicked bags of 5 and 7. Like he has not.
I promise you, if I start him, this streak will break.
Well, do not start him then, please, because I think I'm going to play him. And the other one I like there too, which TCB, he's got on there as well. Thoughts on Jai Simpkin as a pod? He's eligible as a forward for us in 2026 in GameDay Squad, and I think that's a great shout. It's just the Port Adelaide factor for me, but if Pickett's not playing, he's someone I'm going to be seriously looking at for that last spot. Love him for the FantasyBros Sunday Showdown competition, and I think you can genuinely look at him as a standard competition play now, especially with Pickett out.
Yeah, Showdown, BroDown, absolute lock there for the Sunday comp. I think Simpkin is absolutely going to be in your best 7. He's still, I think he's part of that group there that you're spoken about with Darcy, with Green. For me, Simpkin's definitely in the group of sort of that F7. I've really struggled to decide, but if Pickett comes out, then I'm going to have to sit down and think about that a lot harder of who's going to get the edge.
Yeah.
I like Simpkin because you know what he's going to do. I don't think he has those ceiling games like a Toby Green, like a Darcy, where we can see the, multiple goals kicked and we're seeing 130 plus performance out of him. But he can just tick over those anywhere between 90 to 120, pretty consistent over the season. The averages, I think he sat about 95 last year, and I don't expect his role to decrease that much this season. But I'm with you in terms of it's going to be a pretty tough day against Port. I think they're going to dominate that midfield. It's just how much chance he's going to get to score.
Yeah, exactly right. And then in terms of some of those under 22s as well for the week, before we move on there and have a look at who won the BroDown ShowDown and spin that wheel to see who gets some prizes there. The under 22 players, I thought Leo Lombard and Bailey Humphrey for the Suns were incredible. And I think that's, they're
so
probably
good.
Another play. Again, like that first quarter from Bailey Humphrey was just on another level, and he worked so well with Christian Petrarca, didn't he?
He's a great player. I was actually at the game live, and I was very, very impressed about how good that he looked on the field. He looked like one of the best players in a game where a lot of people would have had that on us. So he's very handy.
Absolutely. And then Harvey Thomas was good as well for the Giants. Nick Watson, the Wizard for the Hawks, he was really good too, going through the midfield. He just added a new dynamic that they needed at times, because it's a bit one-dimensional sometimes with Newcomb, Nash and Ward in there. So I think that he looks really good. And if he's getting that, that's good for his scoring. Darcy Wilson, Joel Frazier probably wasn't what we thought he might be. He only attended 29% CBAs, which was down. But I think I like a lot of other picks, but Frazier could still be a good play in that forward line as well, in that 22s comp. But we haven't seen Murphy Reed, Sam Lawler, or Harry Shees, who we've already spoken about as well. So there's some players we can be looking at in that under 22s forward line. Now, mate, here's our contender teams for Haz and I for round one, as you can see on screen. We have in the back line, it should be very similar, if not the same. We're both keen on Christian Salem, and there is no Dane Zorko currently sitting in there, which both excites me and terrifies me at the same time. Because, as I said, I can't find a reason. I can't find a reason to drop anyone in that back line, and I feel like Zorko can put up a big score that can kill your week. And then as in the midfield, you'll see those conversations we've just had. So we've got Dawson, Butters, Smith, Anderson, Dunkley, Dacos, Sammy Walsh. You'll notice the difference there in Haz's squad. His pod for the week is Will Ashcroft. Just with that McCluggage going out, he's big on Will Ashcroft and what he can do this week. So he's throwing him in his contender team as well as the 22s. Our rucks as well, we're both going with English and Cameron for the matchups we've spoken about. And as our forwards there, Pickett's currently sitting in there at the moment, but he might have to come out. So if we look at those locks away, looking at Petrarca, Myers, Flanders, Sheasel and a Pickett, two forwards are going to be Toby Green and Connor McDonald, and I'm going to have to run some trials to figure out who's going to come into that last spot tomorrow if Pickett is out. What are your thoughts initially, mate, just looking at those? A few surprises?
Look, I love the squads overall. It's good to know that I'm sort of on the right track. I just need a bit of refining, it looks like, when I'm building my squad. I guess the big one for me that I love, I don't think we've spoken about him yet, is Dunkley for you there, especially putting a gold salary cap on him. I know we've spoken about a bunch of the other midfielders who have some good matchups. Is there something in particular that is leaning you towards wanting to load up a bit of salary cap on Dunkley? Like, he didn't play a bad game, but you wouldn't call it one of his best, with 83 fantasy points on the weekend in a round that had pretty thin midfielders. I think a lot of people would be quote unquote disappointed, me being one of those, starting him in the midfield thinking he was going to have a day alongside McCluggage. I'd love to get your thoughts on it, mate.
Well, he was one. I played him last week too, and it was a bit disappointing. I just think I'm backing in the player again, and I'm backing in the matchup. Like, I know it's not a great matchup. Sydney's not a great matchup by any means for opposition mids, but I just think that it's going to be a really contested game there at the SCG, and I think there'll be tackles available, and I think that he's going to be one that, with Huey McCluggage out, Harris Andrews is out, the backs will be against the wall. I just can see him. Right? Yeah, Zach Baylor. I think there's there's clause to say that I think Dunkley's going to step up, and that's a bit of a gut feel. But if you look back at round one last year, he had 140 GDS points against the Swans, and he can just score in so many different ways. So I think this is a game that doesn't look good on paper, but it might suit him. And it's also a little bit of, I think coaches won't pick him this week too, and I'm happy to sort of stick fat. And in terms of the salary, it probably was just what I had left over from some other squads. So I thought, I'll chuck it in and see how he goes, see if we can get that number a bit higher from 27.
No, I love it. Look, going against the grain like that is the way that you can really rise up the ranks in GameDay Squad. When people are starting to have a little bit of doubt, you've got Smith in there as well. We spoke about maybe some of the doubts around him. So does Haz. So I find it really interesting. But overall, it's looking mighty fantastic. I always just love seeing the double Giants and double Saints down in the defense. Like, it looks so wrong, and it feels like it should be the case, but they're so good that you can't not do it.
Yeah, it feels so right after the weekend though, when they all go absolutely bonkers. So let's hope they can do that again for us. Now, mate, I swear, if I lose one more of these, I'm not coming back. Hey, like, that's 5 now.
No.
I've really struggled with this competition. I feel like you talk about your history picking Toby Green and you might break him. I feel like every player I pick here, I break. You know, for somehow, however, Wanganeen Miller goes sub 100. I'll have no idea. I reckon that was 100% down to me. Don't forget, like, I don't think Perryman actually did anything. I think that was just he knew Pitty's picked him in showdown and I'm going to stink it up. And then Sinclair just goes massive in that second half. So I think Haz was kissed. That's putting it lightly. But thanks to everyone who got involved in the chat there and they got behind both Haz and myself. So BroDown ShowDown, we're going to spin the wheel in a second. And everyone who has voted for Haz last week, they have been put onto our wheel. So that's sharing now. Just let me know when that's on there, Tom, when you can see that.
Yep.
But yeah, we're going to go. Lovely. I'll spin that in just a sec. So we had TCB, Ganners, Izzy, Maxi, Such is 5, and Mel's. Now, mate, am I not mistaken? Mel's is the new CEO of GameDay Squad. Is that right?
I think so. Something like that. Yeah. No, she's running all the.
That's what Dill had mentioned to me, saying
she's she's been awesome. A great part of the community, but she's like leading a lot of the community engagement and stuff. So you'll see her a lot more in the Discord, helping out with a bunch of different events and things that be running. So yeah, she's been awesome, and she's gone against you, mate. Can't believe this, but she's won. She's taking the cookies because of it.
Yeah.
Or potentially.
Sorry, she knows. She knows. Don't pick.
Sorry. We got to spin the wheel.
Yeah,
first.
she knows. Don't pick Pitty. That's her thing. But yeah, awesome job to Mel's. You know what I mean? Doing an incredible job in there, and she has done for a long time too. So it's so good to see. And speak of the devil. Oh, there we go. Is that allowed? Am I allowed to do that? Well done, Mel's. No, and thanks so much to Mel's as well for getting behind the Fantasy Bros, as she always does. So I'm going to jump across, mate, into GameDay Squad, and I'm going to rip a 9-player common pack as well. So we're going to jump in here now. 3, so she can have 1 row of this, so she'll get 3 players, and Haz gets the others, unfortunately. Not that he needs it, though. So you can see that on screen there, all right?
I can. I'm with you. I'm excited.
Lovely. All right, let's open up and see what's inside. I need you to think what row.
Big animation.
Oh, okay. You need to tell me, mate, what row is Mel's getting?
Okay. Can it be, it has to be a row, or can it be a column, or we're just going across? 1, 2, 3.
I'll let you. You choose. If you want to do a column or a row, that's up to you, but 3 cards.
All right. I'm picking for Mel, and then Haz gets the rest, right? Okay, so I've got to pick something good here.
Correct.
I'm going to get all the good cards out. That's what you're telling me.
Absolutely.
All right, we're going with the right side, strong side. I want the straight line on the right.
All right, this one down here.
Oh,
Let's see what we have. All right, we've got a silver, a gold.
Oh, it's not the diamond.
And a silver. Oh, no.
I'm sorry, Mel.
Haz does not need more diamonds. All right, let's see what we got. We'll do the silvers first. Oh, a silver Evans.
Oh, it's a platinum.
Oh, a platinum Jordan. Sweet. I'm not sure if he's playing this weekend, but a platinum never goes astray. And a gold Fawcett. So, Mel, sorry about that. You can blame Tom for the cards, but make sure you flick me a message in the Discord and I can get those across there to you. So let's look what Harry's got. The rich get richer, some say. Oh, that's interesting. A Jack Buckley for Haz there. That's his last name. That's quite ironic there. A silver Sturt.
Oh, what is this?
And we have a Williams.
It's a diamond. Okay.
Oh, there's the diamond.
Oh!
Is that 2? No way. How did Platinum Horn Francis? How did we? We just need to tell Haz, mate. She gets the middle one. All right, let's have a look.
Yeah. Can we cut that
top
part
one or
out?
bottom one?
Hey,
we should.
I want to go straight down the middle for Mel. Straight down the middle.
All right, let's do that. Done. All right, Mels. These are for you. Let's have a look. Oh, Mikanda. Oh, I haven't even heard him. All right,
Here
here we go. What's the last one? Oh,
I thought
that's
that was
actually
for
very
Sheasel,
handy.
but it's still handy. But the low
Oh,
number
Finn
and
O'Sullivan.
North.
Yeah. Now, I think Haz will kill me if I do that, so I might chat to him first because I think that card is very handy there. We'll see. We'll see. I'll have a chat to Haz. But a Diamond Finn O'Sullivan could be very handy in an under-22s competition. So that is actually not a bad, in terms of rarities, not a bad common pack.
Wow.
So we love some bigger name players, but that Diamond Finn O'Sullivan is actually very, very handy.
2 diamonds of
Now, mate, I'm going to jump across here. Yeah, I know. How is that? Right, I'm going to jump across here and I'll show you for our next BroDown ShowDown. And I think if I can't win this, then I don't know what I'm doing because this week I have gone for some of the biggest names you can come across. So in terms of our defenders, it is Rosie against Whitfield. So who is going to go out on that one? And then also we have Butters against Anderson in the midfield. So those two juicy matchups we spoke about, they're going head-to-head for us. It is Darcy Cameron against Tim English, and then it's Petrarca against Sheasel. So that's the BroDown ShowDown. Jump into the chat, comment who you think is going to come out on top. Just as a reminder for you, it is position by position. So if I go back and have a look, we had our defenders this week. Sinclair outscored Wang, so had English outscored Grundy. He got the point there, and Petrarca outscored Flanders, so he got the point there. If it was 2 apiece, we would go off the highest scoring player, which still would have been Haz, because Petrarca outscored Goulden by 2 points. So that's kind of how we work it. So get in the chat, drop a comment now whether you think Haz is going to take it out with his Rosie, Anderson, Cameron, or Track, or if it's me with Whitfield, Butters, English, and Sheasel. And yeah, love to see those comments coming in. Thanks, Maxi, for getting behind me, mate. I appreciate that. And obviously, Michael Cossie as well, mate. Thanks so much. Good to see you in the chat. Thanks for the message earlier on Discord as well, offering to help out with a trade I was seeking. So yeah, get behind me now. Next week, we'll have a look at who comes out on top. And if you've picked the right bro, then you'll be going onto that wheel to win yourself some awesome prizes. And I've just had word as well. Mels, if you are there, you are getting that diamond. You are going to have that diamond Finn O'Sullivan. So that is all yours. And that's, again, thanks so much for tuning in and helping out with everything you do for GameDay Squad and the bros. Now, mate, that is... So thanks so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. And just as a reminder to users, just make sure that when you sign to GameDay Squad, you've used that code FBAR26 when signing up to get yourself 3 9-player common packs, which we just ripped, and we got a couple diamonds, which is awesome. So, mate, thank you so much. It's been absolutely unreal having you on, chatting some footy. We really appreciate your time.
No, mate, thank you. Hopefully I've learned enough along with everyone else watching this that I'm going to bounce back this round. You'll see me in the top 20. I'm hoping for a top 10 because I need a big performance after how last week went. But yeah, we love the stuff that you're doing at the Fantasy Bros. I appreciate you having me on. Love talking footy with you, mate. And yeah, hopefully we can do this again another time this season because
Absolutely.
I've loved every second of it. So thank you.
I'm glad. Mate, so have I. And again, thank you so much. I'm sure we will, that's for sure. And thanks to everyone for listening and watching along as well. We've got our next round preview show next Wednesday, the 18th of March at 7:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. We will catch you there. Have a great round 1, and we'll see you then. Bye.